Billionaire Elon Musk is coming for Social Security. On his not-so-fied website, X, he claims that there is widespread fraud that is taking place in the payment of what he considers to be federal entitlements, which, again, Social Security is a earned benefit, okay? But which you are entitled to because you pay into the system. But he says, no, there are people that haven't paid anything that are getting out so much money. In fact, Musk wrote on February 11th, at this point, I'm 100% certain that the magnitude of the fraud in the federal entitlements, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, welfare, disability, etc., exceeds the combined sum of every private scam you've ever heard by far. It's not even close.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Well, listen. Let me say this before you move on, because I don't want to forget the point. I just wrote it down. Is there are mechanisms in place in the Constitution and statutorily to combat fraud, waste, and abuse. Like there, when you that's what congressional oversight is for. That's what these committees are for. That's what James Comer, as chairman of the oversight committee for so many years, that's what his duty was. But instead of looking at fraud, waste, and abuse that was apparently so rampant, so public, so in your face, instead of looking at that, which isn't it's not a thing. Sure, there's some fraud on isolated levels, but nothing that's going to sway the budget. Not even a rounding error it would come up as. But instead of investigating that, they wanted to look at Hunter Biden's dick and talk about his laptop and the Biden crime family, things that didn't exist, as a way to assist Donald Trump in his election, in his attempt to be president again. That's what it was about.
But Jesse, I mean, he pardoned a bunch of people, though. Joe Biden did. So, I mean, obviously there must have been something there, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And doesn't have anything to do with the fact that Trump kept talking about going on a revenge tour.
Yeah.
And then doing a revenge tour on the people that he could do revenge on.
Yeah, that whole thing. I don't even get into the morass about the pardon thing.
Yeah.
Because Donald Trump pardoned Rick Gates and Paul Manafort and Roger Stone and Jared Kushner's dad. And you can just secure the nonsense, as we used to say in the Marine Corps. Just secure that BS, because it's just a whataboutism. All presidents make pardons. In this case, I do believe the Joe Biden pardons were absolutely justified because of the fact, the promises of revenge, the promises of retribution, the promises to weaponize the Department of Justice against Tony Fauci, Dr. Fauci, someone who should go down in history along the lines of like Norman Borlaug, who saved 1 billion lives through engineering different types of rice and grain so it doesn't fall over in the wind or in the rain. He saved millions of lives, both in the AIDS epidemic, but also COVID and other communicable diseases. So the Republicans can just go away. Pick your invective.
These are the people who want to drink raw milk now.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe, I don't know. Maybe there's going to be some Darwin Awards being handed out here soon for the raw milk drinkers.
It's the one advantage of a Robert F. Kennedy HHS, and that's that brain worms for everybody. Just when
everyone.
If Social Security is included, you're going to also get your daily allowance or your monthly allotment of brain worms for yourself.
Oof. Oh boy. Wait, put that in a campaign right there. Brain worms for everyone. Instead of a chicken in every pot, it's a brain worm in every skull.
Right. That's right.
Gotta love that.
A chicken in every pot, a car in every garage, and a brain worm for every skull.
Right up in there. But anyway, let's get back to the Social Security, right? And not only that, but all the different programs that he mentioned. There's a welfare fraud, which is a throwback pretty much to the welfare queens. And we all know where that came from.
Yeah.
Less than 1.5% of all welfare recipients are estimated to commit fraud. So rounding error, okay, incredibly rare. And as far as SNAP, there are stories of people that sell their food stamps, because whenever you talk about that, there's always somebody that brings that up. Oh, they're selling their food stamps, right? Well, that's because there's a lot of things that food stamps will not allow you to buy. And so, hot food, for example, they won't let you do that. And then, of course, some will, use things like cigarettes or whatever like that. That sucks. But at the same time, if they're selling those, then they're cutting back on their own budget for healthy food, right? Healthier meals. And so,
listen, it doesn't even. I don't even know that it's appropriate. That's a really harsh word because I'm not shitting on what you're saying, but it's just the fraud of these types happens so in such minuscule numbers that it doesn't even sway, doesn't even register on a budget. It's 0.000 whatever percent of people sell food stamps for cigarettes.
Right.
The vast majority of these types of entitlement benefits for SNAP and food is feeding children. These are kids who are going to be better off in school, perform better, who will then do better in life, in their life outcomes for income as taxpayers to fund the government. This, from an economic standpoint, is just a no-brainer that Republicans, because it impacts Black people, it impacts brown people. Oh, shudder to think a poor person might have a slightly easier life. That's not what they want. Also, Elon Musk, he's not going to be collecting Social Security, Mr. Almost a trillionaire. So GTFO.
Yeah, it's really about, stopping these programs so they can create wage slaves. I mean, very low paid wage slaves at jobs that, by the way, really don't even exist, which if there's large unemployment, that's going to drive down wages because it's going to be such a demand for jobs. I mean, it's already laid off a huge percentage of the federal workforce. So those unemployment numbers are going to suck. And then, of course, you have private industry that are also, that's also laying off people, and that's going to look bad. But all of that is a win for them because, well, if you have more desperate people outside of the workforce who can't get jobs, going to lower wages, going to save our buddies, our friends, lots and lots of cash. And that's ultimately who we work for, is the wealthiest Americans.
Yeah, I think there's also an element of this of keeping people desperate and focused on survival so they don't rise up and understand really the nuances of class solidarity here. And that they know that if you can keep people, broke and hungry, they're going to be focused on what they're going to eat next and not on the larger systemic issues that led them to be more entrenched in the situation they find themselves. Exactly. And Republicans know that better than maybe anybody, which is why, again, coming back to it, we need a robust opposition party to fight back against this nonsense.
That's right. Now, Musk, getting back to him, right? He said, without any evidence, of course, that there was currently over $100 billion per year of entitlement payments to individuals without Social Security numbers or even a temporary ID number. If accurate, this is extremely suspicious. When I asked if anyone at Treasury had a rough guess for what percentage of that number is unequivocal and obvious fraud, the consensus in the room was that about half, or $50 billion a year, or $1 billion a week. This is utterly insane and must be addressed immediately. Well, who did he ask? Big Balls?
Big Balls. Big Balls, who's hired back now.
Yeah.
His balls must be so big that they just must. They had to give him another position. I think he's with the State Department now.
Yeah.
Big Balls.
Yeah, Big Balls. And
does your audience know who Big Balls is? Because I don't think mine would know.
I'm pretty sure I've talked about him before. I do like to throw in the occasional Musk Wunderkind Big Balls reference. So, but for some reason I'm blanking on his name, and I should know it. He's not the guy who was actually caught for posting racist posts that was fired and then rehired back. This guy, Big Balls, was one of the people who had apparently given information from a company, right, that he had worked for to competitors or something.
He maintained access to a server and then broke the policies afterward. Yeah.
And this guy's only 19 years old too. And
he's the, as Brittany Page describes him, the underdeveloped frontal cortex that is a high school graduate who now has access to your payment data, your treasury data, your Medicaid and Medicare records. This high schooler who has shown a pattern of reckless behavior surrounding personal, private, sensitive, confidential information. So great, good times.
Yeah, it's fun, awesome. And they have no idea what they're looking at. And so obviously the first thing that you do when you don't know what you're looking at is to claim fraud.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they're doing. Again, we're not saying that fraud doesn't exist, right? And nowhere are we saying that it's not, but it is a minuscule amount. I mean, the Treasury announced in 2024 that it recovered $4 billion in fraudulent payments. It sounds like a lot, except that no, it's not. And they recovered that money, and a lot of it, probably from mistakes, because there is human error, and some, I think, are from people who have died, and that
also again, there's a mechanism in place statutorily to deal with fraud, waste, and abuse, because Congress has an oversight role in this that they've abdicated to Donald Trump and Elon Musk, who is outside of the arm of oversight. He hasn't been appointed or vetted under Article 2, Section 2 of the Constitution with the advice and consent of the Senate. He's just a rando that Donald Trump has all the confidence in the world.
Yeah, and that's not good. That's not good. But even with all that, again, the minuscule amounts of fraud, way below the $50 billion alleged by Elon Musk. Way below. And so, again, it just comes down to, I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about. And I don't like that poor people are getting money. And that's what it comes down to. I mean, I think personally that Musk is preparing to loot the Treasury under the guise of fraud, of stopping fraud. And maybe even is trying to route federal payments through his own platform. And he has talked about making X the everything platform, which includes banking. Yeah. It's going to make him a lot of money.
Well, the other thing, look, I don't have the lie sandwich tweet that you just read that was like, he makes a claim and then he gives it a little bit of wiggle room, if true, and then continues in the tweet to tell more certain statements that are just lies. If it's an if true, then it's, this is what we think. Bring us the proof of it. Instead, it's just statements made on Twitter.
Basically, but that's all they have is statements made on Twitter. Some rando told me this, or I got this from Big Balls, who doesn't really have anything, any idea what he's talking about, because he's only 19 years old and didn't even graduate from college. Well, I mean, I would say those sources are a bit dubious.
Well, imagine where you were when you were 19 years old. What fulsome or lack thereof understanding of our world and the government and the complex payment systems of Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid and entitlement programs. At 19, I was thinking about getting off work in the Marine Corps to go get a beer. This kid is not, obviously, he's not some super intellect. He goes by Big Balls online. He's exactly what every 19-year-old is, not some wonderkin who should be in charge of or have access to the most sensitive areas of our government to give Elon Musk even more power to understand the financial networks of our Treasury Department.
Yeah, and I don't even think it's entirely a measure of intelligence. It's also experience, familiarity,
life experience. Yes.
And familiarity with the systems, right? I don't think this is something, this is something that is incredibly complicated, and it's not something you could do a once over on, in a 20-minute, here's how you do this, lecture, have at it.
Yeah, he's Big Balls. He's not Doogie Howser.
Right.
Period.
I think we'll leave it at that. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon in order to get notified whenever a new video is released. And if you want to support independent, progressive media through this difficult time where it seems like everybody is shutting down, you can become a member on our YouTube page, you can become a subscriber on Facebook, or you can go to my Patreon. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. Thank you.